Hi, I'm Josh Brown here with my friend David Byrne. David Byrne is the founder of Bright Lights, which is a consulting firm that helps protect athletes from the money management industry. I'm really happy to have David here today. We're going to talk about protecting athletes, finding the right financial advisors, and making sure not to find the wrong ones. Stick around. David, thanks for coming by. So for the people that have not heard of you yet, but they will, you're doing something very important. You're helping professional athletes, I think specifically football players right now, or not necessarily?
Football players, NBA players, and MLB players right now.
Okay. And so the idea is that there are good financial advisors and money managers out there, and then there are shady financial advisors and money managers. But a professional athlete, even their agent or their other advisors, are not equipped to inform the athlete who should be listened to, who should be trusted. Is that the gist of what you're trying to bring to the table?
Yeah, it's mainly just letting athletes become aware of the realities of the world that they're coming into. Right. They have an entire team around them, and a lot of times they're making the decisions for the athlete. Sometimes those decisions
Who's
are not.
The team? The mom?
You got the family,
agent.
yeah, the mom, the agent,
the
financial
the
advisor.
uncle maybe.
There's somebody in a family associated.
Right.
There's the financial advisor. There's the lawyer if he's involved. There's an agent, but the two biggest ones are basically the agent and the financial advisor.
And sometimes the lawyer and the agent are the same, or
I haven't run into that.
Okay,
no.
So it's two separate people.
Yeah.
But then they have conflicts, or they have like pet people that they like to recommend and.
Typically what happens is, you start with the agent because he's the one you sign with first.
Right.
Now, sometimes they're going to introduce you to some people. Sometimes, they're not going to have any conflict where they're just like, these are the people I work with.
Yeah.
So take a listen on what they're doing, see who you like, see who think's the best. Other times, there are some conflicts of interest where these are the guys that I work with. I may or may not be telling you whether I'm getting paid on it or not. So it creates some conflict there.
Now, here's the thing that you just said, see who you like. So that's the whole thing. The most likable person is not going to necessarily be the wisest advisor or the person who is most adept at bringing that skill set of money management and investment management and financial planning to the table. That person often is so likable because that's basically what they trade on. Yeah. Like that's their thing.
Well, who do you think's the most likable person usually? At what profession? A salesperson.
Of course.
So
it's their job.
And it's exactly what you said. I tell athletes, and I just have a recent case right now where an athlete's moving to a new financial advisor, and because he really liked the last financial advisor,
right.
But something terrible went down.
Right.
And so he said with the new guy, I don't really like this guy. We don't really get along. And I'm like, that's okay.
Perfect.
That's fine.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to like the person, but the person shouldn't be at the club with you.
Exactly.
Like the person should not be buying bottles at the same nightclub that you're at.
Mm-hmm.
There was a case in New York City in the 90s, the financial advisor to the Stars. Mm-hmm. He was like hanging out with Leo, and like he was at the clubs, and like that's the worst person you could possibly have dealing with your money. Yeah. The person that's trying to also be a star or be your best friend.
Yep. And I think the mixing of money and friendship becomes complicated. And you have to be very wary of it because the more you become a friend, the less you're really worrying about anything else.
Right. So your background before starting, you just launched this over the last couple of years?
Yeah, about 15 months ago.
So your background, you were a FINRA examiner with a specialty in AML, which is anti-money laundering. And you were in South Florida, I think?
So I was in South Florida
which is like the Wild West.
The absolute Wild West. It's unbelievable what's going on.
I know.
I always say, and I think you're from Long Island, I always say the two worst areas
Long Island and Florida.
Long Island and South Florida.
Sure.
Because South Florida's got money laundering, it's got penny stocks, it's got elder fraud.
Well, all the South Florida people were from Long Island. Yeah. And then they have the Homestead Act in Florida. Yes. So they can buy a house and they know at least that's protected from all the coming civil and legal penalties.
Yeah. Okay. I spent most of my time in Florida wondering where all this money came from. Because there's so many great cars and huge houses. But yeah, so the start of my career was actually at Merrill Lynch. And so I'm from the DC area and started at Merrill, did the admin thing for about a year, answering the phones, getting to know all the clients. I then got licensed, worked for a team that managed about $600 million.
Okay.
Crash hits, and I'm 25 at the time.
This is the crash of 2008.
The crash of 2008. The crash hits. Because of my role as an admin at that time, everybody was calling me and saying, what happened? Like, why is this going on? Why is my portfolio in half? And I'm 25. I don't know.
Why isn't my broker calling me back?
Right. And so, it very, very much affected me.
Yeah.
And so that led me to FINRA, actually, because I just said once the curtain started falling and you start understanding not only Merrill's involvement in all this, just everybody's, it made me feel, well, maybe I should do something.
All right. So you go to FINRA. They send you to South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
You start looking at firms. You start getting sent out for audits or exams or whatever they call it.
Yeah, examinations.
Okay. And how many firms would you see in a month?
It depends. So you would have about 8 cases a year, roughly.
Okay.
And then it depends on the risk level. It kind of depended on your experience. But with South Florida, if you got there, they just started throwing you in the deep end if you showed some kind of, intelligence that you're really looking to dig in.
Right.
And so almost from the get-go, I was given wild cases.
Right.
And so you just wouldn't believe it.
Right.
I think we could have a whole nother thing about that.
Okay, we'll do that next time. So, all right, so you decided to launch this thing and work with professional athletes. What made you pick that target market? Were they, in your opinion, people most vulnerable to financial shenanigans and advisor conflicts?
Number one, elderly people.
Of course.
But it's such a broad range of people. There's no way to really hone in.
Right.
Number two, to me, sports and entertainment.
Because, all right, so let's get into that. So you're talking about people who are very young. They go to good colleges, and they certainly go to classes, but they have like a 40-hour-a-week job.
Yeah.
Being on the field,
Mm-hmm.
so that the alumni feel they got their money's worth with their donations. So they're basically employees of the college without being paid for it. And so how could they possibly be financially literate?
Right.
If they're spending all that time, practicing, etc. So then they come out of school, they have whatever career they have. They're still very young.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have millions of dollars and literally no idea who to talk to, what to do with it. Is that like an accurate?
Yeah. And the one way I put it, which is kind of a good way that I tell athletes, is I say, as a professional, look at the people on your team and how they look over. You got trainers, you got doctors, you got masseuses, you got everything under the sun to make sure you're healthy, right? But what do you have to make sure you're financially healthy?
Right.
Nothing.
Nobody
they have
has-
a financial advisor, and you
NFL,
hope he's doing a
NFL
good
doesn't
job.
have that in the budget, or the teams don't. The teams aren't employing.
No.
They might bring someone in to give a talk
Yes.
for 60 minutes, but right.
Who's going to take 60 minutes of a talk and really be able to walk away with knowing finance?
Did you see on Hard Knocks this season? They had one of the players in spring in training camp, but I think he was cut. But he kind of gave like a little mini impromptu speech about compound returns.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
That was great.
That's what that guy's job should be. The Browns should hire him.
The beauty is, players who understand that it's such a powerful platform to be in the locker room, to be able to educate the guys, because you're coming from a place where they're like, okay, I think this guy's legit.
It's affinity.
Right.
I know this guy.
Right.
He's in my shoes.
Exactly.
Right. So, but they don't really have that. It's
No.
not really a thing. Okay. So now, an NFL player signs his first deal, has, I don't know, a $15 million deal, 2-year deal, or whatever, like a healthy amount of money coming to him.
Yeah.
They're not handed that lump sum. It's paid out over time. There's huge taxes. So, but they're still going to have a lot of money. The thing is, the average career in the NFL is how many years?
3 to 4 years.
3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that could be it. Or maybe they'll get another deal after, and there's just no way to know. There are injuries. Okay.
And everybody thinks it's not the first and only contract they're going to have.
You can't think it is, because how do you get up out of bed in the morning if that's the way you're thinking? So,
Right.
of course, you have to be optimistic. All right, fine. So you sign that deal. And you say, all right, I have money coming in, but I'm on the road. I can't pay attention to this stuff, and I just need to know that somebody is. And so I met an advisor who's at UBS at a charity dinner, or I met a friend of a friend of a friend's brother-in-law. Now what? How do I know who to give the money to, and not just who to give the money to, how do I make sure that they're doing their job? And that's where you come in.
That's where I come in. So what I had seen with that whole situation that you had, that's where it ended. They met the person. They just said, I talked to him
All right,
once
I'm
or
in.
twice.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Right.
Or I came from a referral. because the quarterback or the whoever, he works with them.
Right.
But it's like, well, what does the quarterback know? And they don't know the answer to that.
Quarterbacks are like really smart, like relatively speaking.
No. In the grand scheme of things, in the locker room, sure. But I'm saying, what experience does a quarterback have in financial literacy?
I would only really listen to a kicker because I feel like they have a lot of free time to study.
Yeah, that's probably true.
All right, but so then you come in and you say, all right, I'm going to meet the advisor or show me the materials that they gave you so that I can see what they're pitching.
So what I do, it's kind of the whole process is, in the best case scenario, I start from the beginning when they're getting recruited. These guys are getting recruited in college, if not in high school, by financial advisors.
Okay.
So I'm trying to be there.
From ground zero.
Ground zero.
Okay.
Who are the guys you're talking to? Let me do background research reports on what's publicly available. Let me dig in, see what the conflicts are.
Because you're a former FINRA examiner.
Right. I know what to look.
You can do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Most people don't even know what a Form ADV is or a Part 2 brochure. And so they're not going to, A, know what that is, or B, even read it. And that helps to understand what these guys' investment philosophy is, what their conflicts are, what the products they're selling, everything you can kind of understand in addition to regulatory history.
Okay.
So you look at that, you tell them, these are the guys who I think, from my perspective, you're going to be on the best foot with starting.
Okay.
But that doesn't particularly mean a lot because I don't know what's going on under the blanket.
Well, so would you ever say to somebody, just blanket disqualification, like, you know what, I looked at this guy, he's got 3 complaints on the CRD system, and I looked at what he's pitching you, and it sounds too good to be true, and my advice is you need to start over and find someone else? Will you say that?
Yeah, I'll be straight up with them about what I see and what my opinion is on their background and on their history.
So is that like a report card? Is that like a letter grade? Is that like this guy's a C?
Yeah, so I'm working on a scouting report right now to kind of provide an exact score of what I think based on, because there's a lot of different elements you're dealing with.
Okay.
Whether there are a duly registered broker, and that's just one piece.
So that's not even like potential for fraud. That's just like, here are these built-in conflicts this person has that you should be aware of.
Right. And then because the reality is most guys, and not all of them, but most guys that I've looked at in the background of their regulatory history, they're mostly clean.
Right.
Not all of them. And that usually will disqualify if, and I understand sometimes you get a complaint that's completely frivolous, and if that's up there, I'm not going to like.
If you're in this industry for 20 years, it's like
you're going to have
likely that you've been, somebody has written an email sometime, and that's on your record.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you're a bad egg.
And I'm not trying to nickel and dime people with that stuff because I understand those things happen.
You know how it works.
Right. Okay. So once I kind of get them and say, look, these are the guys I think who have the least amount of conflicts, who are probably going to do the best job, I then will monitor them from that point forward. And what also helps is that...
So will you get like dual copies of the brokerage statements or the performance reports that are being...
Yep.
Okay.
Or view-only access.
Now, what about if somebody is not even talking to a wealth manager? They're just looking at hedge funds because... Like you think about the example of the Golden State Warriors. So like part of the pitch of Kevin Durant like going out there, I think he could have made more money somewhere else. But he said, I want to play with these guys. And obviously it gave him a chance to win a ring immediately, which he did. But then also like, it's the Bay Area. And I could be hanging out with like venture capitalists who will take me under their wing. The team's owned by venture capitalists.
Yeah.
So I can make all these private investments. So what if somebody on Golden State comes to you and says, hey, vet these VC funds? Like, will you say, I don't have that expertise?
Yeah, I mean, it depends how deep they want me to go. If they want me to do valuations and stuff of companies they're looking at, I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. I'm not a CPA.
And you can't project what a company will be worth.
No, there's no way.
Okay.
And it's, to me, with private investments, and I'm not against private investments, it's what are you getting involved with? And
do you even need that level of risk? Even if it works out, do you need to take it?
Well, and what I'll usually say is, you're not Kevin Durant. You don't have the prospect of having $200 million in your bank account.
Right.
And so to think that you're going to be that.
Yet.
Right, you never know. You never know. But I think to me, it's what I see on the private investment side more often than, Silicon Valley, VC funds and those kind of things, and private investments in legitimate startups that have real backers and real VC funds doing that stuff, is shady deals, which nobody's backing.
Yeah, like buy my brother-in-law's car wash.
Right.
and I'll run it for you.
Yeah, or getting this oil and gas deal that is owned by a guy who has 25 companies under the same, you have no idea what's going on. Right, you have no idea what's going on.
Wait, so all right, what do you do about the entourage? Because if you saw that HBO doc, was it HBO or ESPN broke?
Oh yeah,
ESPN.
ESPN 30
Is it 30 for 30?
Yeah.
All right, so if you saw that, one of the recurring motifs is my boys from my hometown hooked me up with this restaurant deal, or it's always and it's hard to say no to childhood friends no matter who you are.
Yeah.
Right? You have long-standing relationships with people. You've been way more fortunate than they have, and then they're like, listen, I have this idea and I need your help.
Yeah.
Do you get involved in those conversations, or are you just understand that the average business fails, like many businesses fail?
It is a complicated discussion because, like you said, these are friends that they've known for their whole life, and they're trying to get some support too. And so it is a case by case basis. You can't say in every situation, no, you can't do it, or I'm not trying to opine on whether you should or shouldn't. You need to understand what's going on here. You need to understand, does this person have business experience in this world? Does he, what are the odds? Starting alone with private businesses, they're not going to, the odds of success.
Failure rate is high.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. And so there's sometimes that, people are going to give money to people and there's nothing you can do about it. And some people are going to spend their money and there's nothing you can do about it.
So now let me ask you the logical question that I'm sure has been asked of you before. You ever get somebody that's just thank you so much for vetting all these people for me?
Yeah.
Why can't I just give you my money? You seem ethical.
Yeah.
You know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Why can't you just do this?
I have gotten that a few times.
And what are you waiting for?
It's not an interest of mine.
Okay.
I don't want to do it. I've been in that world. It's one of those things where you sort of, the simplest way for these guys would be just, the 3 fund investment and just wait till you're retired.
Yeah.
And then you can start really getting in and learning and understanding private investment and doing all that stuff.
Yeah, it's not the worst thing to start becoming financially literate at 30.
Right.
Provided you don't destroy all your capital before you get there.
Right.
Okay.
But I have no interest in it. And the biggest thing for me as a business is conflicts of interest. And I don't...
That's my next question. What if somebody's like, all right, you vetted these 2 people I brought to you.
Yeah.
You told me they're trash. So can you give me the name of somebody that you trust?
Yeah.
What do you say?
I'll tell them that there's people that I've worked with that I've looked at the background of.
You tell them downtown Josh Brown.
Exactly.
All right.
But
you will do that. You will say, look, I can't fully vouch for anyone.
No.
But I've worked with this person with another athlete, and so far so good. You will do that.
Yes. And what I'll say though, and this is just the reality of fraud. This is the reality of the way
But you won't get
work.
paid by that advisor.
No, nothing.
So that is the clear distinction between I'm your consultant versus I'm a middleman getting paid by both sides.
Right. I tell the athlete, look, I know some of these financial advisors, but you are my client. I'm going to look out for your best interest. If they decide to change the way that they're doing their business, I will tell you immediately, and we can make a decision on what to do.
All right. Last question.
Yeah.
Super Bowl is going to be Chiefs Rams.
You're on the Chiefs. You're on the Chiefs wagon.
I'm just looking at I like to take whoever's winning now and just extrapolate.
I'm gonna get so much hate for this probably. I mean, I can't ever bet against New England anymore.
Ugh.
No. Look.
We should have ended this.
That's gonna.
All right. Listen. Besides the fact that he's a Patriots fan.
No, I'm not. Hold on. I'm not a Patriots fan. I'm a Redskins fan. But
it's even worse. It's even worse. All right,
we
should have ended this 2 minutes ago. All right, listen, David Byrne is out here doing the right thing, helping athletes, trying to help athletes' families, trying to vet financial advisors so that wealthy athletes get the right advice so that they can stay wealthy and not end up in dire straits. You're doing good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm really proud to know you.
Thank you.
And I wish you all the best of luck.
Really appreciate it.
All right, see you soon.